8 episodes, from Nuremberg to a DOJ addendum, from a pressure chamber at Dachau to a gestation cell in a classified facility, from the first UFO press release to a congressional hearing room where a decorated intelligence officer said non human biologics into a microphone and nobody lost their job. One thread, one function, one operating assumption running underneath every iteration of every program this series has documented. Keep the human collective pointed away from what humans are actually capable of. Episode 9 pulls that thread all the way back, not to 1947, not to 1945, to the beginning of the documented record. And what's sitting there? Before the priest class, before the written narrative, before the institutional apparatus had a name, is a tower. Jericho, Jordan Valley, the lowest point on the surface of the earth, 258 meters below sea level. Talas Sultan, the archaeological site that sits underneath the modern city, excavated by Kathleen Kenyon in the 1950s. Results published, peer-reviewed, in the academic record. What Kenyon found pushed the evidence of permanent human settlement back further than the prevailing timeline was prepared to accommodate. 9000 BCE, a walled settlement, permanent structures, a population estimated in the thousands, water management infrastructure drawing from the Aina Sultan Spring, a tower. The Tower of Jericho, 8 meters tall, 8 meters in diameter at the base, stone, with an internal staircase of 22 steps cut from a single rock, estimated to have required 10,000 man-days of labor to construct. 10,000 man-days. At a date when the standard civilizational timeline places humans in small nomadic bands. Before writing, before bronze, before the wheel in any form the textbooks introduce it. The tower required planning, coordinated labor, institutional organization. Somebody had to decide it was going to be built. Somebody had to organize the people who built it. Somebody had to ensure the project ran across the time it took to complete it. That's not nomadic band behavior. That is institutional behavior. The academic record acknowledges the tower exists. It debates its function. Defensive structure, territorial marker, social gathering point, astronomical alignment. The debate is legitimate. The tower is not. What the standard civilization timeline does not comfortably accommodate is what the tower implies: human organizational capacity. The kind that produces coordinated multi-year construction projects, existed thousands of years before the narrative timeline places it. The Tower at Jericho is not an anomaly. It is an early data point in a pattern this series has been documenting from the beginning. Human capability predating the institutional record of that capability, and an institutional record that consistently, across every era, minimizes what came before it. Jericho sits at the western edge of what becomes the Fertile Crescent, the arc of early agricultural settlement running from the Jordan Valley through the Levant into Mesopotamia. The settlements that emerge across this corridor over the following millennia share structural features: permanent architecture, water management, agricultural surplus, division of labor, and increasingly, a class of people whose function is to not grow the food or build the structures, but to intermediate between the population and whatever explanatory framework the population uses to make sense of the world. The priest class, not invented by any single tradition, emerging independently across the corridor as settlements grew complex enough to require it. The Tower at Jericho predates the priest class as a documented institution, but implies the organizational infrastructure that made the priest class possible. Somebody was already at the top. The written record begins in Mesopotamia, Sumer, approximately 3200 BCE, not with poetry, not with philosophy, not with the kind of content you'd expect from a civilization recording its first thoughts in permanent form, with accounting, grain inventories, labor allocations, temple records, the administrative infrastructure of a complex society needing to track what it owned and what it owed. The first thing humans wrote down was who had what and who owed whom. That tells you something about what writing was for, and it tells you something about what the institution at the center of the writing was doing. The tower at Jericho is 11,000 years old. It was built by humans, with human hands, human organization, human institutional capacity that the standard timeline still hasn't fully accounted for. Nobody needed to come from the stars to build it. The question the next 11,000 years of institutional narrative was designed to prevent you from asking is simpler than that. Who organized the labor? Who decided it would be built? Who was already at the top before the written record existed to tell us? Part 2 goes to that first document. The oldest written narrative on the planet. Clay tablets, a reed, and a ruling class that understood exactly what writing was for. Full episodes of the Echoes of Disclosure series are on Substack and First Light Archive. The truth they hid wasn't alien. It was human. It was always human.